conviction. Faith requires action. Therefore, we just do it with faith. And I believe that this is a reminder for all of us that we move forward in faith. And I have a wonderful reminder from our tech team that we are now live streaming on Facebook. So if you have Facebook, if you have your computers or your cell phones handy, tune into our live stream on Facebook. So this is something new, exciting. Yay, yay, yay. In addition to the conclusion of the series on faith last week, we introduced our Centers for Spiritual Living voting guide, Spiritual Living voting guide, and highlighted how it is in alignment with the vision and values for the Centers for Spiritual Living. And this week, we're going to identify some questions to ask before completing our ballot. We ask, what are my personal values? Are my personal values in alignment with the vision and values of the Centers for Spiritual Living? And then, are my personal values and the values of Centers for Spiritual Living in alignment with this candidate's position? And it's a candidate for all of the offices that you're voting for in your local community as well as the national community. And then we ask the same for the ballot measures. Are they in alignment with my personal vision? And do they express the Centers for Spiritual Living global vision of a world that works for everyone? And we'll explore these questions in more detail at the first of our three voter guide discussion gatherings, beginning this Thursday, October the 8th. It will be for the next 3 Thursdays, October the 8th, the 15th, and the 22nd, from 7:30 to 8:30. And be sure to check the newsletter that came out on Thursday for the Zoom link for our Sunday discussion, for our the Thursday discussion meetings. And that Zoom link, and Amber, if you could put this in the chat for us, please. The Zoom ID is 521-128-7538. 521-128-7538. So I look forward to seeing you on Thursday as we discuss our voter guide in relation to our personal values and the vision and values for Centers for Spiritual Living. And so using that as a segue into our topic for today, just like me, we each are a reflection of the infinite. Offer this context for our theme. Knowing that we each are a reflection of the infinite, we move towards an understanding that everyone around us reflects ourselves. Everyone around us is a reflection of who we are. Now, we may ask that question or pause and say, well, you know, that neighbor that's downstairs, or the neighbor that's around the corner, or, you know, the person that's hanging out on the street corner, how can they be a reflection of me? And the answer to that is very easy. It's like looking in the mirror. Each one that we see is a reflection of ourselves. And just like me, everyone is doing the best they can with what they have in the time that they have. And as I begin to embrace this idea and embrace this truth more and more in my individual life, I recognize that, yes, this is very true, that everyone around is doing the very best that they can with what they have in the time that they have. And so this presents to us the opportunity to find compassion within ourselves in knowing that we're doing the best that we can. And then we're able to transfer that compassion to those who are around us. And isn't this what our world is crying for right now? You know, not only as the human species, but the planet. You know, the planet is crying out for compassion. The planet is crying out for our love, for our care, and for our concern, and for our appreciation. And so we come to a deeper and a kinder and more honest understanding of ourselves as we attune to that part of ourselves that is pure spirit. We stay in alignment with that spiritual identity of ourselves so that we are connected with others. And then we realize our oneness as a normal, everyday occurrence. Oneness is not something that we can take and put up on the shelf, like clean dishes. You've emptied out your dishwasher and you stack your clean dishes on the shelf. And then you take one down as you need it for whatever you're using it for. Oneness is a continuous connection at all times, at all places, and in all ways. And so some ideas to share with you of how we can demonstrate oneness. And that is connecting with ourselves and getting in tune with our best. In the peace song, it says, "Let there be peace on earth and let it begin with me." And that's the way it is with kindness, with the expression of self-love, with the expression of recognizing that each one is an infinite expression of the idea of the God self. Each one is an expression of the God self. And so we ask this question, what does your face look like when you leave home? And I'm not talking about the makeup, the skin products that you use to keep your skin supple and vibrant and all of those things that we do to go out for our personal persona. What does your face look like when you leave home? Is it a grumpy face? Is it a happy face? Or is it just there? And our answer to that may depend on whether or not we did our spiritual practices. Were there other things that came into the life landscape? One of my favorite expressions is life happens. Was your morning one of those life happening experiences where you just had to skip spiritual practices because life happened? There was too much to do. And consequently, you left your house reflecting that mood or that beingness? Are we always at all times being our best? Are we truly being who we are? And if not, what is it that needs to change? Ernest Holmes in our Science of Mind textbooks offers this. In turning to the law, realize it is a law of reflection. What we reflect out to the world reflects back to us. When we smile at the world smiles back at us. When we change our reflection to that of God reflecting through us, what comes back to us is the same, if not more. We change our reflection to the recognition that God is expressing as me and through me. And as I project that out, as I lead with that, that is what comes back to me. And it's even expanded greater and greater and greater. A second idea for connection is connecting with spirit, staying in tune with the spirit. When we leave our home after connecting with our inner selves and with spirit, it reflects in everything that we do. And I just know this from my own personal experiences. And you may ask why. Why is it that when we've done our spiritual work and everything just tends to really fall in place, everything falls in order. It's the miracles in life that occur. And that is because we have let go of whatever the story it was, that untrue story that we were telling ourselves about not being worthy enough, not being good enough, not being smart enough, not being whatever the not is. In releasing all of that into spirit, we truly become present with the essence and the truth of who we are. And we express ourselves with God and with the world. And this reflection creates a peaceful effect in the world because we are at peace internally, and the world around us reflects that back to us. Again, let there be peace on earth and let it begin with me. And again, in our Science of Mind textbook, Dr. Holmes writes this: our beliefs and our deep-seated convictions inevitably outpicture and reflect themselves in our experience and our environment, both in the physical body and in the larger world of our affairs. What we outwardly are and what we become depends on what we're thinking, but this is the way that we use our creative power. Our thoughts create what we express into the outer world. And a third way of embracing these connections and identifying with the infinite that is just like me is through connecting with one another. And we have a connection circle that is going on here and now. We're connected from within the sanctuary, and we're connected via Zoom. This is a virtual connection that is just really operating divinely. In the current COVID-19 environment, we may observe those individuals that are serving us, say our grocery workers or the bank tellers or wherever it is that we're going out for a service. We may reflect that, we may recognize that at some point they may not be having a good day. And it could be that, it could be the exhaustion of the times, the stress of the times that are going on. It could be that one irate customer who just isn't understanding, and it's really not about the individual that they're taking their stuff out on. It just happens to be a point of contact. How many of us have experienced that when somebody is just dumping? I can't think of another way of perturbing it. Someone is just dumping on you. It's not, and it's not about you. It's hard. We say don't take it personally, but it's hard not to take it personally. When we are connected with our inner knowingness, when we are connected with spirit, we recognize that I just happened to be the point where that person felt that it was safe enough to release. And I don't have to take it personally. That requires a strong spiritual muscle, spiritual time in the gym, folks. What I say to the frontline workers when I am out in public is, I always say, thank you for serving us. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being in service to us. And that really creates a climate of change. I shared in my newsletter article my experiences with my internet. And I chose to lead with patience and with compassion, knowing that the demand on the technology systems are so great. And what I received in return was a reflection of what I had sent out. And I encountered the most skillful as well as the most helpful technicians that helped me to resolve my problem. And I am really grateful for that. When we demonstrate making a difference by expressing gratitude or interest in and reflecting the deepest expression of God's love to another, then that's where the connection really takes place. And again, in our textbook, Dr. Holmes writes this: the relationship between the individual and the universal mind is one of reflection. What we imagine for ourselves, it imagines for us. If we can sit in we can either sit in the shade or we can sit in the sun. We have the choice to sit in the shade or to sit in the sun. And so if we're in the sun, there's going to be a brighter reflection that comes back to us. If we sit in the shade, it's going to be a dimmer reflection. Sometimes we sit in both the sun and the shade. But whatever it is, whatever image it is that we project out is that image that comes back to us. And so as we draw this part of the service to a conclusion, I just want to share with you, connection is happening when we connect ourselves with spirit or with another. It is that moment that the divine within us and between us is expressing itself. And I have a story of connection that I want to share with you. I saw this story on the internet and I go, oh, this would be a great one. And this is a true story. It is about a family who lives in the state of Texas, in Fort Worth, Texas. And I don't know, some of you may have seen this story on the internet. But they really recently discovered that their 14-year-old son had a diagnosis of leukemia, and that he would have to go in for treatment at the Cook Children's Medical Center in Fort Worth. Of course, during the COVID-19 phase that is going on, the hospital had introduced a guideline that only one family member could stay with their loved one while they were receiving chemotherapy. The young man's name is Aiden, and his parents are Chuck and Lori. Lori, his mom, works at the hospital. So she was able to really launch the rigorous treatment plan into action right away. But the dad could not, Chuck could not go in and be with his son. And so every Tuesday when Aiden would go into the hospital for treatment, Chuck, the dad, would show up in the parking lot outside. And if you can imagine, the treatment center was on the 3rd floor of the hospital. So the dad is in the parking lot. And the dad would bring a speaker and turn on some really upbeat music. And he would just dance. He would just do a boogie like there was no other. And he came up with all kind of creative dance steps. And it really inspired his son. And so they would be laughing at each other back and forth. And the son would try and imitate the moves that he was making. And it became so contagious that the staff and some of the other patients who had windows that overlooked the parking lot looked forward to those Tuesdays when Aiden would come in for treatment and his dad would be in the parking lot. And in the video, it showed that other patients that were coming into the parking lot would pause. They would intentionally go to this area of the parking lot where the dad was doing his performance, and they would stop and they would watch and they would participate. So it really became an exciting and fun activity. And the whole intent was to cheer his son up. And Aiden said, sometimes, yep, it does cheer me up. And so as Aiden enjoyed this and other people enjoyed it, the family and everything about togetherness was what the experience of this was. And as Chuck, the dad, said, I will do anything to bring his spirits up, even if just only a little bit. Of course, the dances were a way to show Aiden that he's not going through the treatment alone, that his dad is right there with him, even from 3 stories away. And so our call to action is to make the commitment to get connected and stay connected with each other. And so let us pray together. Good and gracious Spirit, that which is known by many names and followed by many traditions, I know it is the one life, the one power, and the one presence, the one harmony that is just wrapping everything in love, the love of itself, expressing through itself as itself into each and every individualized expression of itself. And how good it is to know that I am one with this expression of the infinite self. And as this is true for me, it is true for all who are on this call. It is true for all who are connected with us in any way that our connections extend beyond our own immediate area into the larger world. And imagine, if you will, a world connected with the infinite self expressing as itself through each and every one. What a magnificent image that is that comes to my mind. One world connected with the infinite self expressing through each and every one, and yet expressing as individualized creations of itself, each one unique, each one walking in harmony, in love, in joy, in fellowship, in peace, in friendship, in beauty, in joy. All of the attributes of compassion and care and concern, truly working together, recognizing that we co-create with spirit a world that works for everyone. I bless churches and centers and temples and places where people are gathering, recognizing their oneness with the infinite that is known in many different ways. And I bless each one that has a prayer request in their hearts, that prayer request that may have been expressed to a practitioner or to a close confidant. Know that the Spirit always says yes. Whatever the request is, the Spirit always says yes. And those requests that emerge from within for the highest and best for ourselves and the highest and the best for everyone that is concerned, we elevate right here and right now, knowing that God is love and love is all that there is. And so in gratitude for this day, in gratitude for this time together, in gratitude for life, in gratitude for homecomings, in gratitude for all of the joy that is expressing for each and every one, I am thankful. And I release this word now into the activity and the action of the law, that law which always says yes. And I see the demonstrations that are revealing themselves even now. And I just let this go. I let it be. And I invite you to affirm it with me as we just say together. And so it is.